So hi, Jenny. Great to meet you.
Hi, great to meet you, finally.
Well, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your background and your experience and your role here at Rapid Canvas. Tell me all about it.
Sure. Well, my career in technology started really in management consulting for boutique consulting firms across several states. And I actually began as a business analyst, observing workflows, and then evolved into, and again, and this was across industries, whether it was financial services, banking, healthcare. And then I evolved and grew into project and program management. And I was overseeing large digital transformations, business transformations for companies of whether it was CPG companies, retail, telecom, uh, more healthcare, and a lot of banking and credit unions. And then did things for large companies in the Pacific Northwest, whether it was one time managed all of the Microsoft Office product websites across 22 countries. And so I've done big things like launch the cloud before we all knew what the cloud was. And so playing roles as a boutique consultant and management consultant in those days. And then eventually growing into the custom application development side of things and overseeing large project teams and user experience teams and then growing into becoming a chief information officer. And so I've spanned, my whole career has spanned dozens of industries, and it's been quite a fun ride. And so now over the last couple of years, I've been advising AI startups, and then with that, meeting Rapid Canvas. And so I've taken on the role of VP and GM of Enterprise AI Solutions. And that is very complementary to the work I've done in being a co-founder for the Seattle Enterprise AI Roundtable, and I still sit on a number of cybersecurity and technology councils. So I still stay close to the technology leadership aspect of things.
That's very impressive and very good for Rapid Canvas customers because they're looking for somebody they can relate to in terms of the real day-to-day business problems. And sounds like you will have all the scars to be able to relate easily to them. So that's wonderful. Well, I know that most organizations are still approaching AI procurement with a software checklist. You know, what features does the software have? What's the licensing structure, implementation, rollout plans and dates and project schedules? And so, what's the fundamental problem with that approach? And why does hiring a team member, as an analogy, better capture what agentic AI actually requires today?
Yeah, when I'm talking to folks, I say, let's time out and pause. We are not buying software. We are buying capability and we are buying capacity for our teams. And I think it's really hard for us to get out of the patterns that we create as humans. And I had those checklists. I have spreadsheets of checklists that we've gone through all the compliance questions. Now you have to do certain due diligence for sure with any new capability that you bring in, whether it's a badging system or a technology or a platform. But I do think there's a big shift underway to reframe how we acquire AI capabilities. And when it's not a standalone product, there are very good bespoke AI products, but what starts to happen is you begin to get silos, just like we have SaaS silos now, and we have our marketing data over here, and we have our ERP financial data over there, and we're still trying to connect them. I've been on a mission to connect data and create a single, user experience my entire career.
Yep. And so what I see is that procurement, those checklists don't really work. And when we talk about the capabilities that agentic AI will deliver, what are some of the key capabilities that you're seeing from customers? What are they looking for? What are some of those key capabilities?
Well, it's been an interesting shift for people to realize that they can start to go after the really hard stuff that we kind of put on the too hard shelf for a lot of years with off the shelf software that we just couldn't tap into. And so I look for the places between systems and the messy middle of spreadsheets and the mashing up of data that people and teams are doing between systems, because that's where the magic is. And when you start to think about AI as a member of your team, to you rather than just throwing bodies at a process. I've seen armies of accountants be hired just to tackle manual processes and enter data with the keyboard. And so those are the kinds of moments when I would encourage folks to pause and start to think about creating a digital workforce instead of buying a piece of software.
Jenny, you argue in one of the blog posts that we should stop buying AI software and start treating it like a digital team. For a leader who has spent decades buying SaaS licenses, what's the most jarring difference between installing software and in onboarding an agent?
I think you have to take time to train. Like you bring on a new team member, a young analyst or an intern, you spend time with it first. You get to know it, it gets to know you, you give it feedback. And so a lot of the capability that we build at Rapid Canvas is to do exactly that. Where there is an AI capability, we let the humans in the loop thumb up or thumb down, provide feedback, see the traceability, give more context to the proprietary product that we have created for that company that is inside of their walls. And so it really is about not just downloading something and letting people go and then maybe adding training later. It's really about taking time initially to grow it like a seed that you've planted.
You compare AI's learning curve to a new analyst's first 90 days of onboarding, with steps like early outputs need refinement, context must be built deliberately. So what does onboarding actually look like for an AI agent? And where do you see companies cutting corners in ways they never do with a mere mortal like you or I?
I think people don't initially give it time to ramp up, and they want it to behave like their prompt and response interaction with the common language models on the market in the public realm. And so they're just expecting it to take a picture of whatever's in my refrigerator and make me a pizza. And so giving that feedback, they want that instant feedback. And I think it takes more time to learn your context and to set the context for you, your team, your company inside of the AI capability. And so it's about really training and giving the feedback right away. We do that all the time with our second brain here at Rapid Canvas, where I'll get an answer that I didn't quite expect. I'll thumbs down and I'll write a little quick blurb about feedback. And so we provide that and enable that in everything we do, so that the AI becomes a team member and it's not this standalone piece. And another reason for this, Michelle, is that we, in an enterprise scenario, we need to have consistency. We need to have traceability. People need to understand where the results came from, and they need to be able to replicate it. You shouldn't get a different answer every time.
Yeah. So I love this cooking analogy that you brought up with the pizza, which is the first time I make a pizza, it may not be so tasty, may not exactly hit, right? But now I've experienced it, and I get to decide if I'm going to add some salt, if I'm going to take away some tomatoes, whatever adjustments I want to make to it. That's what you're really describing. And then once, like I do this in my cookbooks, right? So I give them like a star rating, and then I put my puts and calls, my additions and my subtractions. And then once I know that I like it, that's my set recipe. And that's what you're really describing is experiment, like learn and experiment, and then double down and execute on it consistently.
Exactly. I mean, we have 360-degree reviews for humans. We have quarterly reviews for teams. We have KPRs. We have other metrics that we are measuring ourselves. We want to do that with the AI, and it's not an overnight thing. And so I have those same notes on my mother's coffee cake recipe. And so I have side notes that I now follow with the pencil.
Yeah. Excellent. Jenny, your recent blog post describes a scenario where different teams deploy separate AI initiatives that never connect. So you might have invoice processing here, contract analysis over there, and you're essentially creating more silos rather than eliminating them. And just like we talked about earlier, you've spent a lot of time in your career integrating and trying to get rid of those silos. So how do organizations avoid this trap while still starting with focused, manageable use cases?
Yeah, I'm trying to get into people, interrupt the pattern. Like, stop! Don't just buy more silos because we repeat this pattern again and again. I think what's important is that people right now are in a tinkering stage or proof of concepting, but a lot of companies have moved beyond that. But when you do that, you need to think about a cohesive roadmap, and that's one of the reasons I love the approach we employ at Rapid Canvas by creating, in a very condensed time frame with the functional business leads, an AI roadmap in a workshop format, and get it all out on the table and then see the bigger picture, because you and your siloed function have needs, right? Legal needs, contract review, bid management needs to get more wins. There's all sorts of different, field personnel, office personnel in every industry that are looking to solve problems. The key is stepping back and having a collaborative partner to help you look at the bigger picture. And I would encourage companies to roll it into their strategic planning. Whereas before, I used to get a list of software requests from all the different departments for every annual planning we did in my technology budget. And it was more like an order list. And so I would have to stop and visit with all the leaders to say, what capability are you trying to achieve? What pain are you solving? I've spent my career going after the pain. And a lot of times people think it can be solved with a simple piece of software. And then what we've seen is it's maybe 80-20. We all use maybe 20% of the capability of what Excel can totally do, as an example. And so being really thoughtful about a capability from a bigger picture and a platform perspective with a partner, I think is the key, and it is the new model going forward.
You suggest measuring AI performance the way you'd evaluate a new hire. So ramp time, quality, adaptability, rather than traditional software metrics like uptime and processing speed. Can you walk us through what that looks like in practice?
Yes. So I think initially when you start to put AI capability in place, you want to get scores. You want to get an AI score. You want to get a satisfaction score. You want to start to get your AI to score itself on its a level of accuracy. So AI accuracy scores. And you also want to understand what it's using as input. And so the ramp time, initially we get some good results, but you can start to see, you want to set metrics initially as a baseline so you can start to see improvements over time. And so initially it might be you're trying to achieve 65% less errors in XYZ process. And you can start to see over time, we get to 70, 85, 90, and so on. And so it helps give the business and the users confidence around the tool, because a lot of this is abstract for human beings and it's new. And so trust is a huge factor when it comes to these capabilities and what we can do with AI.
That's been my experience as well, which is the oftentimes technology, especially around AI, doesn't really fail to meet the objective, but it's that people resist it, right? And it's because, like you're saying, to underscore, it's because they don't trust it, right? So building that credibility and that social proof with them over a period of time is just really important for the credibility and trust.
Yeah, I would say trust and understanding. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of folks recently, and those even in technology, those leading technology, and there's still, and sometimes I struggle with concepts and some of the abstract notions of what is possible. And so we all are learning together. And part of that is education and helping people along. People are very threatened by what AI might replace or might do. And as we shift gears to a new way of functioning, and realize we don't have to suffer as much as we were suffering to do all these things manually. Or even, our identity is tied to a lot of the activities that people do that are manual, that they say, check, I did it, I have a full day, I entered all the lines in the spreadsheet, I feel good. But there is a shift that needs to occur to say, what is your role really about? And what can we leverage your human expertise to think about and do if we assemble the data for you with AI, as an example?
You emphasize that agentic AI deployments often aren't about headcount reduction, but rather about leverage, agents freeing your best people to do their work. For leaders who've heard that promise before, through multiple generations of technology, they remain skeptical. So, what does successful human AI collaboration actually look like when it's working well?
When AI collaboration is working well, it is creating real capacity and credibility. And so it is creating capacity for Sarah in accounting to not be working on a Saturday to catch up. It is creating capacity for Bill in the field not to have to run the report for Monday's crew. It's creating capacity for people to spend the time with their family or cut the day at the normal working hours. Now there are different schools of thought around this, but I think we have been so driven in a pay by people's time mentality, whether it's consulting or billable work for billable industries. That is a fundamental shift we are going through. We are shifting to a value-based investment and creating capacity for our people to do human things, but making sure they're part of the process all along the way is key.
You suggest moving from a cost per license to a value created per dollar invested. How does a CFO actually track that? And are we looking for hours saved, or is there a more sophisticated way to measure the ROI of a digital analyst?
I don't think we have all the answers to this yet, Michelle. I think I'm here, the analysts are struggling with this as well. And some of the folks that are, the way we look at our P&Ls over time, it is different and we have to think about it differently. But I think it's important that we acknowledge not every discrete investment in AI is going to show up on the bottom line. It's just not. But people, maybe we're measuring happiness factors. I'm a huge fan of creating happy humans and high five heroes with AI. And I love the work I do every day at Rapid Canvas to help that come to life for different companies and my friends and the people I've been working with over the years. It's real. It's making a real difference, but it's hard to prove it, especially in industries that are going in an hour mindset. It's really like how do you create value? And then how do you create capabilities where maybe you're white labeling something powered by a platform partner to then earn recurring revenue? And it's not necessarily a discrete this for that. We're not necessarily replacing discrete pains. We are creating capability across a workflow or across a cycle, across systems that in the past were handoffs or tosses over the fence.
And so what's really interesting about what you were saying, right, is oftentimes we think about we're either doing top line revenue increases or bottom line cost efficiency. But what that doesn't account for is how do we keep the people in the retention and keep people working and happy, because when people are happy, they're more productive. And so that's what you're describing, like for CIOs or for CFOs, which is when you create this, it isn't just about the top or bottom line. You can look at it from another macro perspective around your team and increasing your retention, because people aren't having to work on a Saturday and aren't getting burnt out, and they can be more efficient and they can do higher orders of work as well, right? So they're not necessarily counting like I entered in that spreadsheet, but what's the impact of the analysis I did based on the data that was automatically uploaded? And that's brilliant.
Right. And the key is that there are people in the middle of all of this. And we have to keep remembering there are people. And a lot of our work is for chief people officers and COOs and CEOs with strategic visions. And maybe we start to measure our happiness quotient as reduce sick time, reduce out of office, reduced, attrition. That is actually a metric in one of the projects we're on right now, is trying to, lighten what we have to carry as humans in the manual or tedious processes that we've been doing. I, for years, have been watching and observing people in their workflows, from being a business analyst and documenting it to then creating custom software to do it. And so I've watched the faces of Sarah in accounting and Connie in the back office of the manufacturing plant as they're trying to wrangle with some obscure, awful process that they were handed down.
You mentioned that early outputs need refinement. Who in the organization is responsible for managing the AI's performance? Is it a new role, title or role, like a digital team manager, or is it an additional responsibility that somebody needs to take on?
I think of our traditional industrial mindset and manager mindset when it comes to this kind of question, and I appreciate it, but I also think it's in it's in the best interest for, and whoever is the subject matter expert has the muscle, knowledge, and know-how to be able to give a little feedback now and then. And the challenge will be, or is, when they feel threatened. And so it is how you approach it from a change management perspective, from an education and pre-training perspective of just a shift in the organization and the mindset of teams, one team at a time. But I don't think it's a net new person or a net new role. It's got to be somebody close to the work that understands what the result should be and where the kinks or the nuances are, because context is everything. And in an enterprise grade approach and enterprise implementation, you have to hold context. There is no tolerance for hallucination. So that is not a relative option like the public LLMs that are out there.
The CEO is listening right now and has a budget for 10 new software tools this year. What's your one sentence argument for why they should scrap that list and hire 2 AI agents instead?
Yeah, I would say to everyone, stop buying more software to solve pieces of problems. I would say your investment is in a platform approach. It's not even 2 agents. It could be multiple agents serving a workflow for fractions of the cost of your SaaS-based software. And then it's holistic and it's connected. If you have a strategic roadmap, you should have a holistic strategic platform, agentic AI platform, and partner to support you in the delivery of that. So I think that's part of the best of breed that we bring with Rapid Canvas, in that it is experienced, seasoned industry experts plus a team of data scientists, plus the platform that provide the governed, productized AI managed services, if you will, approach to delivering AI capability for a fraction of what 20 or 10 SaaS-based pieces of software would cost.
Every CIO feels the pressure to move fast on AI, but I know your point of view is that speed isn't the only thing that matters. What should technology leaders be evaluating before they deploy?
Yeah, I think you have to be, they're inherently, technology leaders are concerned about cybersecurity, safety, trust. All that has to be factored into an AI capability or approach. I think you have to have the ability to trace the answers you get from your agentic AI or your AI platform or your AI tools. You have to be able to get explainability so you can see where it goes. And so all of that with a governed approach to keeping your people safe, your company safe, is key. And I know my first answer to AI in the early years, when I started dabbling with it in 2019, 2020, was first, I'm going to say no, and then prove it to me. And so I was delighted to join the ranks of Rapid Canvas with the SOC 2 compliance, GDPR compliance. I was like, how come people don't know about this? Like, this is enterprise grade AI. And it was such a relief to me to find it. And so part of that is the expert in the loop, the human accountability, the human piece of that. And so it's really about integrating without disruption and covering the pieces that technology leaders have to hear, and the CISOs, the cybersecurity folks, need to hear. And I'm getting great validation from my cybersecurity community about what we're doing at Rapid Canvas. And so it's validating and it's hopeful that there is a way to deliver enterprise grade safe AI capabilities inside of companies doing business every day.
You said something very intriguing earlier that I want to dig into. Even when AI gets the answer right, it can still be wrong for the enterprise. That's a little perplexing to me. So can you talk about explainability, and why it matters so much, even when the output looks great?
Yes, I think it's important because not every person using the AI will know what's possible. And so you have to guide users. We do this a lot with our Second Brain or Ask AI capability that's been super popular because we want to create a space where people can ask any question, but we also share with them and show them right in the window what the data set is, what the record count is, if that's what they want, so that they know what's possible. So if I ask that particular interface to help me create a recipe for my dinner that night for my kids, it will redirect me and give me a better offer and say, here's what this data is about here, and give some suggested prompts. And also just being able to create and hold context within the enterprise, within the knowledge base and the best practices or the standard operating procedures of your company. That is key, because it's not the using a public LLM to do a one-off procedure that you're trying to write for your safety program or your human resources program, and you give it gives you a kind of okay answer once in a while. But when it's not consistent, then if you have a team, it's harder to hold that context. It's harder to hold the consistency so that people at every level of the organization can take advantage of the power of AI and have consistency with whether it's your branding, your brand voice as a company, and the way you do business.
That mirrors my experience too. Like, I've worked with lots of business analysts, and I always use the example of, like, if I'm a business analyst at Procter and Gamble and I've used some kind of black box that I can't explain, I may get a great lift off of the model, but I'm not going to present it to my boss, because the first time my boss asks, like, how did you get that?
Right.
I have no way to answer it, right? So it's not defensible. And I need to, whenever you're presenting, right, to your stakeholders, to your management, to your leadership team, you need to be able to feel confident, right, and trust that you understand it and that it's reliable for you to, because business is all about risk, right? And it's like little risks, big risks, okay? And so you need to be able to defend that risk and why the organization, it's worthwhile for the organization to take that risk. Does that
Absolutely. In addition, the moment we're in right now, with people thinking they have to have perfect data sets to get started, you don't. You can start with small and go from there and build. And that traceability and explainability helps you know where it came from, because not everybody in the organization may agree that a certain data set is the source of truth. And so surfacing that a little bit between straightforward workflows or small sets of data to begin is a great place to start. We can now bring in unstructured data like never before. I've not seen a system we can't tap into, or website, or things to do the things we've been struggling and working so hard to do over the years. It's just so much easier and lighter. And I hate to see people saying we have to get everything, our data perfect. That is not achievable.
You often make the case that the last thing a CIO needs is another platform. So how does a hybrid agentic AI and a human experts model enable AI to dovetail into existing company processes?
Oh, I love this question. I think that's why this approach that Rapid Canvas has is nice and lightweight, because it's a hosted solution for you if you want it to be, or we meet teams where they are if they want to create their own unlimited capability or agents. But I think of it, it's not, it doesn't quite exist. It's not something that people typically understand. So I associate it loosely with the idea of people have managed services for their help desk. They have outsourced third parties helping them with their cybersecurity posture. They have outsourced some parts of their business on occasion to support. So, like a managed services agreement, it's like a lighter weight consultative advisor approach. And then we build the AI capabilities for you. And so it's the perfect blend to me of 80/20, of a productized AI platform. We can build products for you, bespoke, unique, custom applications to do what you actually need it to do so that it serves your workflows and your business versus you trying to fit your business and workflows into SaaS and off-the-shelf software that we've been doing for years. So it's a flip on the traditional model of SaaS, and it brings together the experts in the loop with a team of data scientists with regular office hours, coaching and training teams. We've even trained team members to become in-house experts on their behalf for clients. And so it's a great hybrid model of flexing to be what you need it to be. But I think a great association or complementary concept is the idea of a productized AI managed service. So think of it as an outsourced third-party partner that you establish trust with. We start small, we start together, we partner, and we build together to the extent you have capacity to build. And then we host it, we care for it. And then we if the model changes, if ChatGPT goes to 5.2 and one workflow is using ChatGPT and there's a new version of the model, or we decide this workflow works better with Claude or Perplexity, or in the future world models, we hook it up. It's like the most future-ready, future-proof agentic AI platform plus experts in the loop scenario for businesses.